Good evening and welcome to the Translating Your Kappa Experience into a Dynamic Resume webinar. My name is Beth McAllister and I will be your technical producer this evening. And the webinar will be presented by Maddie Paletas. And so before we get started, I'm just going to take a quick second to remind you about the GoToWebinar panel and the tools that you can use to help you through this webinar. So the pane that you're most interested in is your questions pane. So if you have any questions, whether they're about the webinar that you would like Maddie to answer or technical questions about the GoToWebinar system, please feel free to type those into your questions pane and we will be happy to help you out in whatever way we can. During the webinar, we're going to ask if you can please try to stay attentive and interact as much as possible as you can. The quality of your experience depends on your attention and participation. So try to avoid distractions like responding to email or checking your social media. For the next about an hour, we would love if you could disconnect from the rest of the world and just enjoy your time with your Kappa sisters. This webinar is being recorded and the online archive will be available in a few weeks if you want to review this material again. So if everybody is ready, then I will pass the microphone over to Maddie for her to take us through a journey into translating our Kappa experience.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for joining me, and thank you for the introduction, Beth. Like Beth mentioned, my name is Maddie Paletas, and I'm very excited to share some tips and tricks with you when it comes to Kappa in your resume. So a bit about me before we dive in. After graduating from the University of Missouri, I began working for Kappa as a leadership consultant for 2 years before taking on another job at fraternity headquarters as the alumni leadership coordinator. Now I'm working in training and development here at home in Kansas City, and I've definitely learned some things over the years about both Kappa and how to connect the sorority experience to the professional world. In this webinar, we'll dive into how Kappa can make you a better candidate that stands out from the crowd. We'll touch on some resume basics and best practices. I'll coach you through some terms that may not make sense outside of Kappa land, while also highlighting some skills gained through this unique experience, and we'll wrap up with real-life examples. Without further ado, let's get started. It may seem like Kappa wouldn't add value to you as a candidate in the job application process, but you're probably just going about it all wrong. With an experience like Kappa, you show recruiters that your interests are not limited to your field of study in college or your career aspirations. You're well-rounded. Additionally, good time management skills come with being well-rounded. How did you balance 18 credit hours, an on-campus job, and the demands of extracurricular activities like a sorority? Well, you learned and you honed a skill. This is a great talking point during an interview. Recruiters aren't just looking for someone with the field of knowledge, they're looking for someone that is prepared for a workplace environment. An experience like Kappa also provides you with a unique skill set. Once in an internship interview, I was actually discussing my role as an academic excellence committee member. I gave examples of my team-oriented mindset, my ability to discuss confidential information with sensitivity, and my responsibility to work with and track members through a measurable improvement process. I was able to utilize Kappa experiences and translate them into a variety of skills that fit the criteria of the internship itself. And yes, I did get the internship. Talking about Kappa is truly value add. Employers want to hire someone they like, someone with whom they want to work. Showing a different side of you helps you achieve that goal. If you only talk about the job, you aren't engaging a recruiter in an interesting way. Now that we've talked about what you should be talking about in an interview, let's review how to get you in that interview seat. Resumes can be really confusing. How should it be organized? Can you show your personality? Well, I've got some examples here on the screen for you. The traditional resume on the left is probably what you're used to. It's the most straightforward option to showcase your experience, and it's appropriate in every scenario. If you want to do something a bit more eye-catching, go for the modern style in the middle. This is one that relies on the same information and the same general formatting, but it has creative elements that really make it stand out. Don't be afraid to play around with different fonts and features. But what if you want your resume to be just as stylish and outgoing as you? I would suggest a graphic format here on the right. This option puts design above practicality, and it's great when you want to showcase your individuality. When it comes to the content, you have a few options there as well. Typically, you will see resumes that are organized in reverse chronological order by work experience. This is the most standard and logical timeline structure, as it puts your most recent work first. But maybe you've had more relevant work experience, it just isn't your most recent employment. I would then recommend utilizing a functional timeline. With this approach, you group by topic areas rather than in chronological order, allowing your most relevant experiences to stand out. The final option is to categorize your experiences in reverse chronological order, categorized by functional area. This hybrid model is actually the best of both worlds, showcasing both your relevant history while still staying organized. Now that we've covered a bit of formatting, let's discuss some best practices. Most importantly, and perhaps most obviously, only add the experiences and information that will help you get the job. If you can't spin it to fit the job description, take it out. This leads me to my next point. Tailor each entry to the job for which you're applying. If you're sending out the same resume to every potential employer, you're missing the mark. With technology like applicant tracking systems run by robots that cycle through hundreds of resumes in minutes looking for simple keywords, you need to make sure yours passes that test and ends up in human hands. To do this, pull words from the job posting and stick them in your resume points. No, now I'm not saying copy down full sentences. I'm saying tailor your words to match some keywords that you can identify. More on that later. Once your resume is read by a human, it's important to show what you've accomplished, not just what you worked on in the past. Anyone can have a job, but not everyone can be successful in it. That's how you'll stand out. Finally, on a more logistical note, try to keep everything to one page. Recruiters are looking through stacks and stacks of resumes, so keep yours simple and sweet. As someone who has personally reviewed resumes, the only thing more unfortunate than multiple pages of scrolling is faulty formatting. What you thought was a beautiful header font you downloaded is now wingdings on my screen. To avoid that, save and send your resume as a PDF document. This will ensure it looks the same once it gets to your potential employer. Now let's take a look at this chart. On the left, you'll see words that you know like the back of your hand. Chapter, advisory board, sisterhood, Panhellenic. But to someone who isn't familiar with the Greek system, these sound totally foreign. On the right side is the professional terminology you can use in place of what we call Greek speak. Rather than saying chapter, try student group or membership or group of women. A word like council could be changed to executive leadership, and standards could be judicial process. Using replacement words like this not only relate Kappa to the professional world, but you become more qualified in the eyes of a potential employer when you can apply these terms to experiences that you've already had. I want to provide you with just a few examples of the applicable skills that Kappa leadership provides to our members. As a chapter council officer, our members gain experience in leadership development, committee or team management, strategic goal planning, and group collaboration, just to name a few. These are phrases that can be added to a resume. Our advisors, on the other hand, gain a different skill set, including mentoring, patience, problem solving, and intergenerational skills. Be thinking about what skills you have gained or what accomplishments you have achieved in your own Kappa experience. Now take a look at this example resume entry. Here, you can see how the skills gained through leadership at the chapter level can be styled into a resume. The words are not sorority specific. They reflect real-world opportunities. Phrases like executive board and long-range planning will resonate with recruiters better than the chapter-specific wording. As we move forward, I want to provide some real-life examples for you. I actually pulled the following job descriptions from available positions across the continent, and I mocked up some sample resume entries. The key here, as I mentioned before, is to pull language from the description and insert it into your own resume. Always try to find a way to relate the potential job in the wording in your description to your own experiences. The first example is for a marketing position as a communications manager with Molson Coors. Let's review some key applicable phrases. Deliver commercial responsibility policy and agenda to global commercial-facing teams to ensure our products are marketed and sold responsibly. Influence and set strategy for business communications to ensure alignment with enterprise goals and messaging. And finally, act as key communications advisor to the Chief Growth Officer and leadership team during major developments, crises, or organizational change. Now, you're probably wondering, how does anything like this or a position like this apply to Kappa? Well, based on these job description elements, an experience like serving as a content specialist on the fraternity's public relations team would actually be really fitting. Resume entries would look something like this. So I have some points here. Collaborated on a training program to guide and educate 142 collegiate chapters and 250 alumni associations on public relations policies to ensure responsible representation of the brand. Worked in partnership with public relations team and director of marketing to influence and set strategy for fraternity branding to ensure alignment with goals and messaging. And finally, served as a key advisor and responded to all public relations matters for individual groups, addressing major developments or issues of sensitivity. Now you'll see how these relate to each of the previous 3 points. All of these in the Kappa example really pull the language and the wording from this real-life job description. And this role that I compared it to, a content specialist, is really what we would like to think of as sort of that entry-level volunteer role in Kappa land. The next example is for an advising position at CU Boulder. This position has some great key phrases that relate to Kappa work. Provide immediate advising assistance to undergraduate students and determine student needs. As part of the advising team, conduct orientations and presentations for newly admitted students. And finally, utilize the SAN system, SSC campus system, and others to ensure the success of our students. Experiences gained from serving as the new member chair for a collegiate chapter would be totally applicable to this role. Notice how each of these points relate to specific items in the job description, just as before. Served as the educational advisor to newly admitted members of the organization, conducted orientation education to new members through a 6-week training program, and finally, utilized a member management system, key reports, to ensure the success of new members as they completed their orientation training. So you can see that this one isn't even just about the language that you're mimicking, but it's also about the experiences themselves. So pulling out things about advising, conducting orientation education, and even using data management systems like key reports all relate to the job description itself. The final example I want to provide is for a finance manager position at Kappa. Here are some key phrases I identified that could mirror a Kappa experience. Coordinate global capital budgeting and forecasting, standardize capital reporting and analytics, drive and define CAPEX data needs for the business and work cross-functionally to make data available, and manage monthly capital governance process and monitor returns on investments. I'm sure you guessed which Kappa role would best relate to a real-life role like this. The chapter treasurer. Here's what I would put on the resume to get the job as a finance manager. Worked with finance committee to budget and forecast for the upcoming year. Worked cross-functionally with other executive board members to standardize reports and make annual finance data available to fraternity leadership. And managed committee governance process, including parliamentary procedure, budgeting, and philanthropic fundraisers and donations. As you can see, these last 3 job description examples and the appropriate Kappa resume examples really provide you the kind of wording and things that you need to mimic to make sure that you're fitting a job description in the real world to a Kappa experience that you may have had in undergrad, are having an undergrad currently, or you might have as a volunteer following graduation. So we covered a lot of material in a really short period of time. If you have a question, I'd love to answer it for you now, or you can feel free to email me here at the address listed on your screen. So Beth, does anyone have a question at the moment?
I don't
Okay.
see any right now, Maddie. So if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to type those in right now and we will go ahead and answer them for you. So if you're typing right now, go right ahead. We'll give you a couple of seconds just to get those in. Don't see anything popping up on my screen there, Maddie.
Okay. Well, if you all think of anything else or if you want to know more, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. Like I said, that email address is right there on the screen for you. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, and I'm wishing you the best of luck as you navigate the adulting world of job descriptions and resumes. And other than that, hope you all have a great night and a great rest of your week.
Thank you so much, Maddie, and thank you so much, ladies, for attending with us this evening. As we close the webinar this evening, you will have a few survey questions pop up. I would really love if you could take just a few seconds to answer those for us. It does help us to look at how we're going to present future webinars or any topics that you might be interested in. So thank you very much, Maddie, for the amazing information. I know I am going to take a look at my resume tomorrow at the office to see if I come up to speed with these amazing tips that Maddie gave us. So everyone have a wonderful evening, and we hope to see you again soon on another webinar.